A small Spanish coin from the opening chapter of the Euro era can look almost ordinary at first glance, yet its details tell a much bigger story. And in the world of modern numismatics, those details can make the difference between a coin worth little more than its denomination and an exceptional specimen that attracts serious collector attention. The 20 euro-cent coin from Spain dated 2002 belongs to one of the most important transitions in modern European monetary history, when the euro moved from an accounting currency into the pockets of millions of people. Later, we will examine what authenticated examples of this issue can realistically bring on the collector market, why ordinary circulated pieces are generally not rare, and which unusual characteristics can dramatically change the equation. The key is understanding that rarity is not created simply by an old-looking date. It comes from a combination of mintage, condition, variety, production quality, documented errors, provenance, and genuine collector demand. This particular coin is especially interesting because it combines a historically important first-generation euro design with the image of one of Spain's most celebrated literary figures. Its 2002 issue was produced at the beginning of physical euro circulation in Spain, making it a genuine witness to the country's transition away from the peseta. Yet the real numismatic question is not simply when it was made, but what survived, in what condition, and whether a particular example contains something that separates it from the enormous population of ordinary coins. To understand the coin, it helps to return to the beginning of 2002, when Spain experienced one of the most visible monetary changes in its modern history. On January 1, euro banknotes and coins began circulating as legal tender, while the Spanish peseta entered its final months of practical use before ceasing to circulate at the end of February. For people accustomed to peseta coins for generations, the new euro pieces were immediately recognizable as symbols of a broader European economic integration. Spain was one of the original countries participating in the euro currency system, and its national coin designs were deliberately chosen to connect the new currency with Spanish history and culture. The 20-cent denomination was assigned a portrait of Miguel de Cervantes, the author of Don Quixote and one of the most influential figures in Spanish literature. The European Central Bank describes Cervantes on the 10, 20, and 50-cent Spanish denominations as representing the universality of the man and his work. That choice gave a relatively small everyday coin a powerful cultural identity. The 2002 issue, therefore, has significance beyond its purchasing power. It belongs to the first physical generation of Spanish euro currency that ordinary citizens handled during the dramatic replacement of the peseta. The coin remained legal tender, and Spain's peseta coins could still be exchanged for euros under the arrangements established during the transition. For collectors today, that historical context makes the piece interesting even when its monetary premium is modest. Technically, this is a substantial little coin despite its modest denomination. The standard Spanish 20-cent piece of this first design type weighs approximately 5.74 grams, measures about 22.25 millimeters across, and has a thickness of roughly 2.14 millimeters. Its composition is Nordic gold, a copper-rich alloy containing approximately 89% copper, 5% aluminum, 5% zinc, and 1% tin. Despite the name, Nordic gold contains no gold. The term refers to the distinctive alloy used for several euro-cent denominations. The metal was selected for its durability, appearance, resistance to corrosion, and suitability for mass production. The edge is another feature that deserves attention because it is not simply a completely smooth circular rim. The Spanish 20-cent denomination has a distinctive flower-like shape with 7 indentations, sometimes described as a Spanish flower edge. That unusual outline is intentional and forms part of the denomination's identity. The coin was struck at the Royal Mint of Spain in Madrid, and the crowned M mint mark identifies the Madrid facility. For someone examining an example under magnification, the mint mark should be treated as an important diagnostic feature rather than decoration. Weight, diameter, edge configuration, metal appearance, and design alignment can all help establish whether a specimen is consistent with a genuine Spanish issue. These measurements also provide an excellent first defense against counterfeit material, because a convincing-looking copy can still fail when its physical characteristics are carefully checked. The artistic design is where this coin becomes much more than a technical object. On the national side, Miguel de Cervantes appears prominently, shown with a quill and the elements associated with his identity as a writer. The inscription, Cervantes, accompanies the portrait, while España identifies the issuing country and the year appears below. The crowned M of the Madrid Mint is positioned near the date, and 12 five-pointed stars surround the design, representing the European Union. One of the unusual visual characteristics of this early Spanish euro design is that 4 of those stars are interrupted or incorporated into a surrounding band, a feature collectors can use when identifying the first design type. The portrait was designed by Begoña Castellanos, while the common European side was designed by Luc Likex. On the reverse, the denomination, 20 euro cent, appears beside a representation of Europe, surrounded by the characteristic lines and stars of the early common euro design. This was the first-generation map used before later changes to the common side of the euro coins. That distinction matters because the 2002 piece belongs to the early design period, before subsequent revisions changed how Europe was represented on the common side. In other words, even the reverse carries a timestamp from the formative years of the euro. When viewed carefully, the coin becomes a miniature record of European integration, Spanish cultural identity, and the technical standards established for a completely new monetary system. The mintage is where the story becomes more complicated, because a large production figure immediately tells us that the normal 2002 circulation issue should not be treated as a scarce coin. Numismatic references list approximately 91.5 million circulation pieces for the year, with additional uncirculated and proof production. One detailed catalogue records 91,477,699 circulation pieces, approximately 99,301 uncirculated examples, and 23,000 proofs, producing a reported total around 91.6 million, depending on how the categories are counted. That is a substantial population, and it explains why an ordinary circulated specimen generally trades close to its face value rather than commanding a dramatic premium. Major grading references likewise show the regular issue as a common modern coin, with values in ordinary grades generally remaining very low. This is an important reality check for collectors because online claims sometimes confuse the existence of valuable euro errors with the value of every coin bearing the same date. A normal 2002 Spanish 20-cent piece with circulation where is not automatically a 4-figure rarity. A coin with light wear, scratches, contact marks, discoloration, or a weak strike may simply be a normal survivor of a very large production run. The interesting opportunities arise when a specimen is exceptionally preserved, comes from a limited proof or collector production, or demonstrates a genuine mint-made variety or error. In those circumstances, the coin stops competing with millions of ordinary examples and begins competing within a much smaller specialized market. That distinction between common issue and exceptional specimen is fundamental to responsible coin collecting. Condition is therefore one of the most important factors separating an everyday example from a desirable collector specimen. A heavily circulated coin may show flattened hair and facial details on Cervantes, scratches across the fields, rim contact, dull surfaces, and evidence of years spent moving through cash registers, vending machines, pockets, and tills. At the opposite end, a truly uncirculated specimen can retain sharp detail, original luster, clean fields, and minimal contact marks. Professional grading services use numerical scales in which mint state grades generally run from MS60 upward, with higher grades indicating progressively stronger preservation. An MS60 coin can be uncirculated yet still show numerous distracting marks, while an MS65 or MS66 example should display substantially better surfaces and eye appeal. Extremely high grades become increasingly difficult because even coins that never circulated could acquire marks during counting, bagging, transportation, or storage. Color also needs to be understood correctly. Terms such as brown, and red are widely associated with copper cents, but they are not standard value categories in the same way for a Nordic gold euro cent. For this Spanish coin, collectors are generally more interested in original surfaces, luster, strike quality, tunning, cleanliness, and overall eye appeal than in applying copper cent color designations. A proof example presents another possibility. Proof coins are specially manufactured for collectors, typically with carefully prepared dies and planchets and a more polished appearance. The documented 2002 Spanish issue included a limited proof production, making genuine proof status considerably more interesting than simply finding an unusually shiny circulation coin. Then comes the area that can genuinely transform a common coin into a major numismatic discovery: mint errors. A normal 2002 Spanish 20-cent coin may be common, but a verified production error can be an entirely different object. Collectors should distinguish true mint errors from post-mint damage, because coins suffer enormous amounts of accidental damage after leaving the mint. A flattened rim caused by machinery, scratches from another object, chemical discoloration, dents, grinding, or deliberate alteration can look dramatic without having any meaningful numismatic premium. Genuine errors can include significant off-center strikes, clipped planchets, major die breaks, strong die clashes, substantial strike-through errors, wrong planchet strikes, or other documented failures in the production process. A particularly dramatic error would need to be examined carefully to determine exactly what happened and whether the anomaly occurred during minting. This is where authentication becomes essential. A professional examiner can compare the coin's weight and dimensions, inspect the metal and edge, study die characteristics, and determine whether the unusual feature is consistent with a minting event rather than damage. If a spectacular authenticated error were to reach a specialized auction, a four-figure result could be conceivable in the right circumstances. For example, a genuinely rare and dramatic specimen might attract bids around $1,250, $2,300, or potentially higher if several specialists competed for it. But those figures should never be interpreted as ordinary prices for this date. They would represent exceptional coins whose rarity and authenticity have been established. Public numismatic references for the regular issue do not support treating a normal 2002 Spanish 20-cent coin as a 1,000 to 4,000 item. That distinction is precisely what protects collectors from inflated online claims. For anyone holding one of these coins today, the smartest approach is examination before speculation. Start with the date, country inscription, crowned M mint mark, Cervantes portrait, 12-star arrangement, reverse map, and distinctive 7 indentation edge. Then weigh the coin on a calibrated scale and compare the measurement with the established specifications rather than relying on visual impressions. Examine both sides under magnification and photograph anything unusual before attempting to clean it. Cleaning is one of the fastest ways to reduce the desirability of a potentially important coin because polishing, abrasive rubbing, chemicals, or aggressive dipping can permanently alter the original surfaces. Store the piece in an inert, non-PVC holder or archival quality capsule, handle it by the edges, and avoid touching the fields with bare fingers. If a suspected error appears substantial, do not bend, scrape, drill, or otherwise manipulate the coin to investigate it. Instead, preserve it exactly as found and seek an opinion from a reputable numismatist or professional grading and authentication service. Auction history should also be interpreted carefully. A headline price means very little unless the exact variety, grade, era, certification, and provenance are known. For the ordinary 2002 Spanish 20-cent issue, the evidence points toward a common modern circulation coin rather than a hidden fortune. But that does not make the coin unimportant. Its real appeal lies in the possibility of finding an unusually preserved specimen, a genuine proof, or a properly authenticated production error. In the end, this small piece of Nordic gold captures the moment Spain entered the physical Euro era, carries the portrait of Cervantes, bears the mark of Madrid, and demonstrates one of the central lessons of numismatics. Rarity is not created by a date alone. It is proven through evidence, condition, scarcity, authenticity, and the willingness of collectors to compete for something genuinely unusual. Next coin. There is something deceptively interesting about a Spanish 20 cent coin from 2006. Millions were struck for everyday commerce, yet this particular issue sits at the closing point of Spain's original first-generation euro design, just before the common European side was changed for the expanding European Union. That makes the coin more than a piece of small change. It is a snapshot of a monetary system still taking shape. And for collectors, the real story begins when an ordinary-looking coin is examined closely. Later, we will separate the normal examples from pieces that can command substantially stronger collector interest, examine the factors that determine genuine value, and look at what authenticated exceptional specimens can realistically achieve. The important distinction is that the date alone does not make this coin rare. Its collector potential depends on what the coin actually is, how it was produced, how well it survived, whether it contains a legitimate mint-made anomaly, and whether collectors have demonstrated a willingness to pay a premium for that specific characteristic. The 2006 issue is particularly fascinating because it represents the final year of the original Spanish 20-cent design type introduced for the euro era, while its reverse still carries the first European map used on the common side of these denominations. In the hands of millions of people, it was simply 20 cents. In the hands of a numismatist, it becomes evidence of a very specific moment in European monetary history. The historical setting gives the coin much of its character. Spain entered the euro project as one of the original participating countries, and physical euro coins and banknotes entered circulation on January 1, 2002, replacing the peseta for everyday transactions. By 2006, the novelty of the euro had largely disappeared from daily life, but the currency was entering an important period of change. The European Union had expanded significantly since the euro's physical launch, and the common sides of the coins needed to reflect that changing political geography. Spain's 2006 20-cent piece, therefore, belongs to the final production year of the original common side map for the 10, 20, and 50-cent denominations. The Banco de España explains that coins struck through 2006 showed a map representing the 15 EU member states at the time the euro was introduced, while the redesigned common side beginning in 2007 represented the full European continent. Spain's national design remained centered on Miguel de Cervantes, the celebrated author of Don Quixote, whose portrait was chosen for the 10, 20, and 50-cent denominations as a representation of the universality of the man and his work. The 2006 coin thus occupies an interesting historical boundary. It was struck during the final full year of the original map design, just before the physical appearance of many euro denominations changed to reflect Europe's enlargement. That transition is important to collectors because it allows the coin to be placed precisely within the evolution of the euro series, rather than simply treating it as another modern circulating piece. Physically, the coin follows a carefully engineered specification designed for durability and reliable operation in vending machines, counting equipment, and ordinary commerce. The Spanish 20-cent piece weighs approximately 5.74 grams, measures 22.25 millimeters in diameter, and is about 2.14 millimeters thick. Its material is commonly described as Nordic gold, an alloy containing approximately 89% copper, 5% aluminum, 5% zinc, and 1% tin. Despite its name, there is no precious gold in the metal. The golden yellow appearance comes from the alloy itself. The coin has the distinctive Spanish flower shape, with 7 indentations around its perimeter. Rather than a conventional perfectly circular outline, its edge is smooth between those characteristic notches, creating an instantly recognizable physical profile. Production was carried out at Spain's Royal Mint in Madrid, and the crowned M mint mark identifies the Madrid Mint. For collectors, this physical information provides an important authentication framework. A questionable piece should not be judged by appearance alone. Its mass, diameter, thickness, edge shape, metal characteristics, and design details should agree with the known specifications. The first-generation issue is catalogued as KM-1044, and the 2006 coin belongs to the same basic type that ran from 1999 through 2006. That continuity can sometimes make varieties and errors more difficult to recognize, because small production differences must be distinguished from normal characteristics of the type. Turn the coin over, and the artwork reveals why Spain chose Cervantes for this denomination. The national side presents Miguel de Cervantes in portrait, accompanied by the quill associated with his literary profession. The inscription, Cervantes, appears alongside the portrait, while España identifies the issuing nation. The date and the crowned Madrid mint mark appear as part of the national design, while 12 five-pointed stars surround the composition. 4 of those stars are incorporated into the surrounding band in the distinctive first-generation arrangement. The design is credited to Begoña Castellanos Garcia, whose interpretation turned a famous literary figure into a compact piece of circulating currency. The opposite side was designed by Belgian artist Luc Lykex and carries the denomination 20 euro cent beside a map of Europe. The original map represented the 15 EU countries associated with the euro's initial common design, while 12 stars and the radiating lines create the visual language of European unity. The initials LL identify Lykex's work. This reverse is especially important for identifying the 2006 issue because it belongs to the first map design. From 2007 onward, the common side was redesigned to show the European continent rather than the earlier representation. Consequently, a 2006 Spanish 20-cent coin with the old map is not an error merely because a later coin looks different. It is exactly what should be expected from its year. Understanding that distinction prevents collectors from mistaking a normal design transition for a valuable mint mistake. The production numbers provide another reality check. Available numismatic catalogs differ slightly in how they report the exact total because some separate circulation, uncirculated, and set production. But sources place the 2006 circulation mintage at roughly 102 million pieces, with another approximately 50,000 struck for uncirculated presentation. One specialist catalog lists 104,850,004 circulation pieces plus 49,996 uncirculated examples, for a total of roughly 104.9 million, while another major reference rounds the circulation figure to 102 million. Regardless of which catalog convention is used, the conclusion is the same. The ordinary 2006 circulation issue is plentiful. It should not be presented as a naturally rare coin simply because it is from the final year of the first design type. In fact, large production numbers are one reason ordinary circulated examples remain inexpensive. A typical coin that has spent years passing through shops, banks, pockets, vending machines, and cash drawers is not automatically transformed into a scarce collectible merely by surviving for 2 decades. At the same time, high production does not mean every surviving specimen is identical. Millions of coins may exist, but only a much smaller proportion can survive in truly exceptional condition. Coins can suffer contact marks during mint handling, transportation, counting, and storage before they ever enter circulation. That is where condition begins to separate the ordinary from the exceptional. A pristine-looking example must still be examined under magnification, because attractive surface appearance alone does not prove a high grade. For serious collectors, grading is where the story becomes much more precise. A circulated specimen can show friction on Cervantes's highest points, flattened hair detail, scratches in the fields, rim marks, loss of original luster, and general surface wear. An uncirculated coin, by contrast, should retain its original mint surfaces because it has not experienced normal circulation friction. Professional grading services use numerical scales and mint state designations such as MS60, MS63, MS65, and higher communicate progressively stronger preservation. But grade is not determined by shine alone. A coin can look bright and still have numerous contact marks, while another may have attractive original luster but weaker strike characteristics. Strike quality is particularly important because the force and alignment of the dies determine how completely the design details are transferred to the planchet. Collectors should also be cautious about color terminology. The familiar brown, and red classifications used for many copper-based United States cents are not the standard grading framework for this Nordic gold euro coin. Instead, originality, luster, surface preservation, strike, eye appeal, and any evidence of cleaning or environmental damage are more meaningful. Proof and uncirculated production must also be distinguished from an ordinary circulation strike that simply happens to look bright. Catalog information records uncirculated production for the year, while available references do not establish a famous 2006 Spanish 20-cent proof rarity comparable to the celebrated low mintage proof issues from some earlier years. That means a collector should never assume that an unusually shiny coin is automatically a proof. Then comes the most tempting part of the search: varieties and errors. There is a crucial difference between a variety, a genuine mint error, and damage that happened after the coin left Madrid. A variety is a recurring difference created by a particular die or production setup, while an error results from an abnormal event during manufacture. Examples of genuine mint errors across coinage can include significant off-center strikes, clipped planchets, major die breaks, strong strike-throughs, or wrong planchet pieces, but there is no reliable evidence establishing a famous, routinely recognized four-figure error variety specific to the normal 2006 Spanish 20-cent issue that would justify claiming that every unusual-looking example is valuable. That is precisely why authentication matters. A dented rim, scraped surface, flattened lettering, discoloration, or a damaged edge can look dramatic but may have nothing to do with the minting process. If an apparent error is discovered, the coin should be weighed, photographed, examined under magnification, and compared with known genuine examples before any valuation is attempted. If the anomaly is genuinely extraordinary, professional certification can become important because an independent grading service can document the coin's authenticity and condition. This is also where responsible valuation must replace internet hype. Published price guides for the normal 2006 issue place ordinary examples at very modest levels, with one major reference showing values generally ranging from fractions of a dollar into the low single digits, depending on grade. A hypothetical authenticated, dramatic mint error with exceptional eye appeal could potentially enter a completely different market, perhaps attracting bids around $1,480 or $2,750 if specialists considered the error genuinely rare and important. But those are illustrative ranges for an exceptional error, not documented record prices for the normal 2006 Spanish 20-cent coin. No responsible collector should interpret such figures as the value of an ordinary specimen. That leads to the question that ultimately matters most. What should a collector actually do with a 2006 Spanish 20-cent coin that appears unusually good or unusual? The first rule is simple: do not clean it. Abrasive polishing, chemical treatment, scraping, or aggressive rubbing can destroy original surfaces and reduce collector appeal. Hold the coin by its edges, place it in an inert holder or archival quality capsule, and keep it away from PVC-containing materials and harsh environmental conditions. If an apparent error is found, preserve it exactly as it was discovered rather than trying to improve its appearance. Authentication should begin with the physical basics: approximately 5.74 grams, approximately 22.25 millimeters in diameter, approximately 2.14 millimeters thick, the Nordic gold composition, the 7-indent Spanish flower shape, the Cervantes portrait, the crowned M mint mark, and the correct first-generation European map. Any serious discrepancy deserves further investigation. As for value, the evidence does not support calling the normal 2006 circulation coin a hidden four-figure rarity. Major catalog references identify it as common, with ordinary pieces generally close to face value and even high-grade examples remaining modestly priced. For a genuinely exceptional authenticated error or an unusually important specimen, the market can be dramatically different, and a specialized collector might conceivably pay $3,600 or more when rarity, certification, condition, provenance, and competition align. But there is no verified basis for claiming that figure as a standard auction result for this date. The enduring appeal of this coin lies elsewhere as well. It is a final year example of Spain's original Euro-era 20-cent design, carries Cervantes into the 21st century, bears the mark of Madrid, and preserves the first European map before the common side was redesigned. Its lesson for collectors is remarkably clear. A coin does not become rare because someone assigns it a dramatic price online. Rarity must be demonstrated, authenticity must be established, and value must be earned through scarcity, preservation, and genuine demand. For the collector who understands those principles, this small golden-colored Spanish coin becomes far more interesting than its denomination ever suggests. Last coin. At first glance, the German 20 cent coin dated 2008 looks like exactly what it was designed to be. A piece of everyday European money, small enough to disappear into a pocket and ordinary enough to pass through thousands of transactions without a second thought. But place one under a magnifying glass and a much more interesting investigation begins. The Brandenburg Gate immediately commands attention. The tiny mint mark beneath the date becomes a crucial clue, and the horses pulling the Quadriga reveal a detail that most people would never think to question. This is where the story separates an ordinary circulating coin from something genuinely interesting to a numismatist. The 2008 German 20-cent issue belongs to a period when Germany was adapting its euro coinage to a changing Europe, and its design contains a documented peculiarity that attracted collector attention. Later, we will examine exactly what experienced collectors look for, why the mint mark matters, how the 2008 production was divided among Germany's 5 mints, what the unusual horseleg design means, and what the available evidence actually says about collector values. There is an important warning, however. Claims that a normal 2008 German 20-cent coin is automatically worth thousands of dollars are not supported by reliable market evidence. Exceptional coins can command premiums, but authentication, rarity, condition, certification, and genuine collector demand must establish that premium. The investigation therefore begins not with a price tag, but with the coin itself, and with the tiny details hiding in plain sight. The first clue is the building on the national side, Berlin's Brandenburg Gate. Germany did not choose this monument randomly. The gate had become one of the most powerful visual symbols of German history, particularly because of its connection with division and reunification. During the Cold War, the Brandenburg Gate stood in an area associated with the division of Berlin, and after the fall of the Berlin Wall, it became an enduring symbol of reunified Germany. The German euro design deliberately uses the gate to communicate that transformation. According to the European Central Bank, the perspective chosen by designer Reinhard Heinsdorf emphasizes the gate opening outward, symbolizing the opening and unification of Germany and Europe. The design therefore works on 2 levels. It identifies Germany through a recognizable national landmark, while simultaneously connecting German reunification with European unity. The 20-cent denomination shares this Brandenburg Gate design with Germany's 10 and 50-cent coins, creating a consistent national identity across the 3 middle denominations. Around the composition are the 12 stars of the European Union, while the year and mint mark appear beneath the monument. When examining a 2008 example, an experienced collector starts here. Confirm the date, locate the mint mark, study the lettering, and then inspect the monument and quadriga rather than immediately searching for a dramatic error. The reason is simple. A coin can contain a genuine historical and design distinction without being financially rare, and understanding that difference is one of the foundations of responsible numismatics. Now turn the coin over, and another important piece of the investigation appears. The 2008 issue uses the redesigned common side introduced for euro denominations beginning in 2007. The earlier common design showed a more limited representation of the European Union, while the revised design depicts the European continent in a way that reflected the union's enlargement. The denomination reads 20 euro cent, with the European map positioned beside it and the familiar stars and radiating lines completing the composition. Luke Leikex designed the common side used across the Euro series, while Heinsdorf was responsible for Germany's national design. Technically, the coin is made from Nordic gold, a copper-based alloy containing approximately 89% copper, 5% aluminum, 5% zinc, and 1% tin. The name can be misleading because the alloy contains no actual gold. The standard specifications are approximately 5.74 grams in weight, 22.25 millimeters in diameter, and 2.14 millimeters thick. Its unusual Spanish flower shape is created by 7 indentations around the edge, giving the coin a distinctive profile rather than a conventional uninterrupted circle. Those specifications are extremely useful when authentication becomes necessary. A suspected rarity that is dramatically underweight, incorrectly sized, or equipped with the wrong edge should immediately raise questions. On the other hand, a coin that matches the known physical specifications has passed only the first test. Genuine authentication also requires examination of the dies, design details, surfaces, metal, and production characteristics. The mint mark is the next piece of evidence, and on German euro coins it can tell you where the coin was produced. Germany operates 5 traditional euro mints represented by the letters A, D, F, G, and J. A identifies Berlin, D identifies Munich, F identifies Stuttgart, G identifies Karlsruhe, and J identifies Hamburg. The small letter beneath the date is therefore not decorative. It identifies the manufacturing facility. For 2008, published production figures show substantial differences between the 5 facilities. One specialist reference lists approximately 15.8 million circulation pieces from Berlin, 16.59 million from Munich, 18.96 million from Stuttgart, 11.06 million from Karlsruhe, and 16.34 million from Hamburg, for roughly 78.75 million circulation coins before separate collector production is considered. Other catalogues round some of these figures slightly differently, but they lead to the same conclusion. None of the normal circulation mint marks transforms the 2008 issue into a 4-figure rarity by itself. The mint mark can still matter to a collector assembling a complete German euro set, and lower production combinations can be more interesting than higher production ones, but rarity must be evaluated in context. This is also where the investigation becomes practical. If you find a 2008 German 20-cent coin, don't simply photograph the Brandenburg Gate and ask whether it is rare. Record the exact mint mark first. Then examine whether the coin is circulated or uncirculated, whether its surfaces are original, and whether there is an actual production anomaly. A coin's identity is built from several pieces of evidence, and the mint mark is one of the most important. There is, however, a fascinating design issue on the 2007 and 2008 German 10 and 20-cent coins that deserves much closer attention. Look at the Quadriga, the 4 horses positioned above the Brandenburg Gate. Contemporary reports from 2008 described a problem in the depiction of the horses' front legs. The coin's representation differs from the actual Brandenburg Gate sculpture, with the central horses appearing to raise the outer legs rather than reproducing the intended arrangement of the original Quadriga. A Berlin newspaper reported at the time that the design discrepancy affected the 2007 and 2008 20-cent pieces, and that the design would be corrected in a subsequent production. Specialist German numismatic discussions likewise document the same design issue across the 5 mints. This is an important distinction. It is better understood as a design error or incorrect artistic representation than as a spectacular one-off minting error, such as an off-center strike. In other words, finding the unusual horse leg arrangement does not mean you have discovered a unique manufacturing accident. Contemporary reporting indicated that the characteristic appeared broadly across the affected production. That makes the detail historically and numismatically interesting, but it also prevents us from turning it into a fictional rarity story. One contemporary report suggested collector interest could push examples above face value, but the reported premium was only in the range of a few euros, not thousands of dollars. That evidence is especially valuable because it shows how quickly an unusual feature can be misunderstood online. A genuine distinction can exist without creating a fortune. For the investigator holding the coin, the lesson is to compare the Quadriga carefully, but never assume that every unusual-looking horse is an expensive mint error. Condition introduces an entirely different level of examination. A coin that spent years in circulation will normally reveal its history through contact marks, scratches, flattened high points, diminished luster, rim knocks, and subtle surface friction. On the Brandenburg Gate side, the most exposed design elements can show wear before the protected recesses do. On the reverse, the raised lettering, stars, map details, and surrounding fields can reveal how heavily the coin circulated. An uncirculated specimen should retain its original mint luster, although even an uncirculated coin can carry contact marks acquired during striking, counting, bagging, transportation, or storage. Professional grading services use numerical scales for this purpose, with mint state grades such as MS60 and higher indicating progressively stronger preservation. A high grade is not simply a judgment that the coin looks shiny. Strike quality, surface marks, luster, eye appeal, and evidence of cleaning all matter. Color classifications also require caution. The brown, and red categories familiar to collectors of United States copper cents are not the normal framework for evaluating this Nordic gold German euro. Instead, collectors concentrate on originality and surface quality. Artificially polished or chemically altered pieces can appear bright while actually being less desirable. This is why an experienced collector uses magnification and angled light rather than relying on a casual glance. A strong specimen might be worth more than a worn example, but the normal 2008 issue is sufficiently common that there is no reliable basis for claiming that ordinary mint state examples routinely enter the $1,000 to $4,000 range. Those figures should not be attached to a standard coin simply because a video, listing, or social media post uses them. The most serious part of the investigation begins when a coin appears to contain something beyond the normal design. Genuine mint errors can include major off-center strikes, wrong planchet strikes, clips, substantial die breaks, dramatic strike-throughs, or other documented production failures, but each suspected error has to be evaluated on its own evidence. A damaged coin is not the same thing as an error coin. A flattened edge caused by impact, a scratch crossing the Brandenburg Gate, discoloration from chemicals, or a bent planchet can all look dramatic while having occurred after the coin left the mint. One current marketplace listing describes a supposed 2008 F20-cent piece struck on a 10-cent planchet, but a seller's listing is not proof of authentication, and it should never be presented as a verified auction record or established market value. The same caution applies to online claims about rare defects. Professional authentication would involve confirming the coin's weight and dimensions, studying the planchet and edge, examining the dies and strike characteristics, and determining whether the anomaly could realistically have occurred during mint production. If a suspected error survives that scrutiny, certification from a respected grading service can provide an independent record of what the coin actually is. Only then does a serious valuation discussion become meaningful. I could not verify a credible auction record establishing a $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, or $4,000 sale for a normal 2008 German 20-cent coin, and inventing such a figure would mislead collectors. Exceptional error coins in numismatics can sometimes enter dramatically higher price brackets, but a specific value must come from an identifiable, authenticated specimen and a documented transaction, not from a hypothetical number. That brings the investigation back to the coin sitting in front of us. If it is a normal 2008 German 20-cent piece, its primary significance is historical and collectible rather than extraordinary monetary rarity. If it has the correct Brandenburg Gate design, the proper 7-indent edge, the expected Nordic gold composition, and one of the 5 German mint marks, it is behaving exactly as a genuine coin should. If its surfaces are heavily worn, its value will generally remain close to the ordinary market level for a common modern euro. If it is exceptionally preserved, interest can increase, especially among collectors building high-grade German euro sets, but high grade alone does not justify an invented four-figure valuation. If the coin displays the documented Quadriga design problem found on the 2007 and 2008 20-cent pieces, that is a legitimate feature worth identifying and preserving, but contemporary evidence does not support portraying it as a $1,000 rarity. And if a coin appears to contain a truly extraordinary mint error, the correct response is not to clean it, polish it, scrape it, or immediately assign it a sensational price. Protect it in an inert holder, handle it by the edges, keep it away from PVC and harsh chemicals, photograph the anomaly carefully, and seek professional examination. The long-term importance of this coin is perhaps more compelling than an exaggerated price claim anyway. It captures Germany's post-reunification identity, the evolution of European coinage, the transition to the redesigned euro common side, and a documented design problem that slipped into circulation during 2007 and 2008. It also demonstrates one of the most important rules in modern numismatics. The difference between an interesting coin and a valuable coin must be demonstrated, not imagined. For collectors, that means examining the date, mint mark, lettering, quadriga, map, strike, surfaces, luster, edge, and every suspected anomaly with patience. The coin may be ordinary, it may be an interesting variety, or it may contain a genuinely unusual production feature, but the evidence has to decide.